I just want to let our audience onto a little secret. I believe, Vivienne, your first sound bath experience, you described it as an intergalactic experience. And we'd finished the experience, turned the lights on, and I think we had to wake you up because you were just in such a beautiful, peaceful trance state that I'm so grateful that we were able to create that magical experience for you with that. So that's the level of relaxation. So you were obviously in deep relaxation. That's the level of experience we want to give to our guests that come to our retreat.
Welcome to episode number 65 of the 100 Successful Women, a Conversation to Inspire series. In today's episode, we are joined by an incredible guest who embodies a perfect blend of corporate excellence and holistic wellness. Khyati Bhatia, a former IT executive who courageously transformed her life's purpose to help others to find balance and inner harmony. As a founder of Sattvic Wellbeing, she's dedicated to guiding people through transformative retreat experience that combine ancient wisdom with modern day practices. Drawing from her own 20-year journey in the corporate world, Khyati intimately understands the challenges of balancing a demanding career with personal well-being. Her unique approach integrates yoga, meditation, breathwork, Ayurveda, and sound healing to create a powerful, life-changing experiences. Through Sattvic Wellbeing, Khyati is making wellness accessible to individuals, corporate teams, and non-profit organizations, truly embodying her mission of serving the community. So join us for this inspiring conversation as Khyati shares her wisdom, experience, and practical insights on creating a more balanced and fulfilling life. Let's dive into our conversation coming up next. Hey, good morning, Khyati. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Vivienne. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I am great. I'm so excited to have you. It has been a podcast that has been arranged for a few times, but we are finally make this happen. I'm so excited.
Yay! I'm so excited too. Yeah.
So Khyiati and I met in one of the networking event. We are part of the Business Mom Society. So we have the wonderful Kala that connected us together. And I have seen Khyati's work and I'm so amazed with what she's doing. So I wanted to have her to be on this podcast to share her stories and some of the work that she is doing. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today, Khyati.
Thank you. And thank you, Vivienne, for inviting me to be part of your podcast and part of your journey as you share stories to help and inspire others. So I feel very grateful and blessed to be part of this.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate Khyati for being up here. As she did mention, this is her first podcast. I'm so honored to be her first podcast host. So Khyati, one of the questions that I always ask the guests of these 100 Successful Women is that I know that you play different roles in your life. Obviously, you are a daughter, you are an entrepreneur, you have worked in different areas in your life as well. So despite all the hats that you're wearing, who is Khyati at your core?
Oh, wow. You start with the deep and heavy questions there, Vivienne. So
I always love this question.
I think that's a question you've got to kind of ask yourself daily. Who am I, right? And if I was to, reflect on it right at this present moment, and being in the present is so important. Currently, I see myself at my core to be a nurturer and a guide. I'm deeply passionate about helping people and helping them reconnect with themselves and align their life and their whole way of being to their purpose. And, other thing that's important to me is authenticity. So the foundation of who I am and what I share and what I put out to the world, it's got to be authentic in terms of, who I am and what I'm feeling for the day or for that very moment. I've also come from a world of corporate, led a very busy life. And, part of that, nurturer and a guide role that I do today is really inspired by that, right? And helping bridge the balance, because it's so easy with, as you mentioned, all the hats we wear in life. It's so easy to just get caught up in the day-to-day, right? And worrying about the future, but not really living in the present moment. And so the work now I do is truly inspired by bringing people into the present moment, grounding them and healing them, and allowing themselves the time and space to be mindful and deeply connected within their core, as well as have self-compassion, because we're often compassionate about others, but so critical and judgmental of ourselves. So with the work I do with people, I, hope to realign that. First, we've got to start with ourselves before we can start giving to others.
I love that. Definitely, Khyiati is a nurturer. The way she nurture others is so loving. And then for those of you who haven't connected with Khyiati and see her works, you definitely can start to maybe hear what Khyiati is going to share next, but maybe to also approach her and get in contact with her to work with her, because she is such a nurturer. I love working with her, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. As you mentioned earlier, Khyiati, you were in corporate before, and then now you are the founder of Sattvic Wellbeing. So what inspired you to transition from your career, especially in the corporate world, and focusing on this Sattvic Wellbeing? Maybe tell us a little bit about Sattvic Wellbeing, and then how did you transition that?
Sure. So it's been quite a journey, actually, and it's just, you just take a step at a time and go with the flow, I suppose, right? So for me, this journey sort of started, I would say, probably back around 2017, 2018, and where, realized I was craving something deeper than just being on the hamster wheel of the day-to-day, wearing all the different hats, going about the busy life, going about the busy role. And, I didn't know that at the time, or I didn't have the terms for it at that time. I knew I was craving something more deeper. But, I was probably experiencing symptoms of burnout as well. So I started to do yoga and meditation just for myself and my own healing, right? And I found constantly it would make me feel better every time I would engage in those practices. So then I decided, because I don't do anything in half measures, to go and actually learn this as a proper craft. And really, that at that time was only for myself. I didn't know what I would do with it or the impact it would have on others. And this is way before I was still in the corporate world. So this is way before I actually formed Sattvic Wellbeing. So 2019, while still working full time, I actually embarked on a journey of, taking some time out from my day job and doing a course around yoga and meditation. And at that time, like I said, purely for my own benefit and my own learning. And as part of that learning experience, because obviously these modalities are very practical, I had to actually, not only practice on myself, but practice with others as well, as part of the learnings I was doing. So I started just, doing that with a small group of friends at work, or work colleagues and friends, who was sort of in my safe space at that time, because, I was a student teacher, so they'd give me honest feedback to learn. But again, the benefit that they were getting from the practices that I was sort of involving them with was really great in terms of just the impact it had on their lives, the impact it had on them as a person. And it was only a very small like I said, group of sort of comfortable colleagues and friends that I was doing this with. So I did that for about a year whilst I was doing the course. Then at the end of 2019, when I graduated, that particular group that had become a little fan following said to me, "Oh, just because you've graduated, don't stop this, because we've really enjoyed being part of the journey with you." And I promised them I wouldn't. So 2020, we sort of restart the classes again. And then before you know it, March 2020, COVID hit. And so still, obviously the world turned upside down. I'm still sort of in my corporate role. And in fact, it was that group of people who were sort of the regulars. They turned around and said, "Hey, we don't know whether," because my former background is IT, so we transitioned everything online pretty much overnight in terms of our ways of working. So they said to me, "Well, we're working online. We don't know when we're going to go back to the office. Can you continue what you were doing for us, but transition it online?" And at that stage, I went, oh my God, everything I was taught in my training last year was physical, it was face-to-face. How do I take this online? So then I said to them, look, okay, let me try. I'll give it a go. Right? I never say no to a challenge. And if I feel I can deliver this and be of value to you and keep you safe in your practices, we'll continue this. And so I just started with, my regular little, I would call them test bunnies, and they were really good. They gave me feedback on how to evolve and improvise what I was doing to this camera format, which is sort of our norm now. And it just sort of grew from there. And because geography was no longer a barrier, I was really happy at that time to be of service to people that were suffering so much during COVID. So it went from just a little small pocket of, 8 to 10 people in Sydney to now being available nationally. People from, like I said, all over the country were joining. Our international teams for the company I was working for, they were joining as well. The internet did an article on it, so it just kind of went viral. And it just this was all on top of my day job. So then I started running 2 classes a week for them around yoga and meditation, sort of a Tuesday and a Friday. I started doing sort of team meetings and other deep dives. I did our CEO leadership forum, our sales kickoff, which was running meditation for 1,500 people. So it just sort of went from there. And then I thought, I didn't realize the impact and the positivity this was bringing into people's lives and how much they were craving this in just their day-to-day, in their busy day-to-days, and especially when they were dealing with additional complications of what COVID had brought for us. So that was the beginning of my journey, really, in terms of how it evolved. And like I said, I didn't really I kind of fell into it. I started very much on the wellbeing journey for myself and kind of fell into it in terms of just helping and impacting hundreds and thousands of people, which I was able to do over the course of sort of doing this online for like 3 or 4 years in my corporate journey. So I feel really blessed that I was able to serve humanity really during that difficult period. And then came a point in my career as well where I was at cross paths of, do I stay in my current role or do I go and do something different? I decided to give myself a bit of a break. And during that break, when I did some self-reflection, it was very much, well, do I transition into really making this impactful at scale for busy professionals, the work I do, or do I go into another busy corporate job and do something like this on the side? So I decided to go all in and give it a go. And that's why Sattvic Wellbeing was formed last year. And here we are.
Wow, that's just an amazing journey. And then when you started it, probably you just started for yourself because you wanted to have that healing journey. And then now you're bringing this to a bigger audience and helping even a lot of people, especially as you mentioned, the journey started back in the pandemic years and you didn't even realize that. And then it's all started by accident, I would say. And yeah, thank you so much for what you're bringing to the world, Khyiati. And at the earlier conversation, you did mention when you started in corporate, you felt a little bit of transition. You have that moment that you feel like, oh, I'm looking for a way out. I'm looking for a change. And you did even mention about burnout as well. So can you probably share, because we heard people talk about burnout all the time. Can you share a little bit about what were you feeling, or what were the things that you are seeing, or how did you feel when you had that like burnout? Because people might not be even knowing that they are burnt out, but what are the signs or symptoms or things that people should look out for to know that they are having that burnout?
Sure. So for me, it was really, I'm always very dedicated and passionate about what I do and people I'm surrounded with. So for me, some of the things were, just the cultural environment I was in that had started to change because of some changes that were going around in the external world and in the organization I was in. So I found that external environment was no longer as supportive as it used to be, right? And that was a broader cultural impact. And then you've got to think about what you can influence and what you can't. And then also like this gut feeling of, I'm always on a hamster wheel. What's next for me? What's next for me? Does it ever change? Do I have variety in my life? And do I have, really that inner power and that inner passion to wake up and really give everything that I'm doing the go, and the very best on my 100%, right? That inner power and that inner passion. And I found that somewhere inside of me that was dying. And I always crave, I'm the sort of person that always craves to give everything my 100%. And when that inner power was dying and everything was just becoming like this routine where, whilst I wanted to do my best, I didn't feel that the environment around me was supportive of that. That's when I realized it was time for a change. And it actually took me some time when I actually took my break, to do some self-reflection, to realize that that environment I was in, was not very supportive. I was not the best version of myself and what I could bring to whatever I bring to work, no matter what work I do. And that way, it is actually really, really important to ask yourselves those questions, right? And am I just doing this because it's comfortable? Am I just doing this because I don't know any different, or I think I don't know any different? Am I just doing this because I don't know what my options are? And I really hadn't explored any of those aspects or those deep questions for myself. And when I did, that's when I realized, there is I bring purpose and value to this world, what that looks like. And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to leave your 9 to 5 or your day to day, but it's how you approach it and the work you do. We work to live, not live to work. So as soon as I change my perception and my acceptance of what I do and the passion I bring, everything else changed.
Wow, I love that. I love that you are not only, you started by holding space for yourself, and you started that inner journey towards inwards and have that reflection on what you really want. That's something that not a lot of people are thinking of doing, and that's such an important reflection that you're doing there. And yeah, it got you into thinking and then also to look for a way out. Yeah, so I love that, and I think it's such a journey for you. So you started that journey from 2016, did you say?
Yeah, 2016, 2017, from my self path through to 2023, creating my own business. And
wow, so that is like a few years there, and then you start the journey from then and until now. So for you to you didn't resign from the job straight away, right? You have that transition.
That's correct. But even when I was in that transition, I never really monetized or, the well-being part of it. I was just doing this purely as my give back to the community, and my give back because these practices were making a difference for me. And I thought, if I can, as a leader, in the IT world, in the corporate world, impact others and bring value into their lives, I'm more than happy to actually share that wisdom. And really, that's what I've continued doing now in my business.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, you did mention you are in the IT background, because as far as I know, I used to be in like IT background. I studied IT as well. People with the IT, they are more analyticals, and then they are more logical. For you to like you share with, obviously you share with your colleagues about this more to spiritual. So what are some of the challenges or some of the message that you can, because for yourself to be someone who is analytical to spiritual, how did you, I'm just curious, how did you transition that, and how did you get this message out to your people, with especially, I think they are similarly analytical, logical as you were, and how did you do that?
Good question. And funnily enough, I think earlier in the podcast I talked about being authentic. And yes, you've talked about logical, analytical, and then the third dimension I'd add to it is a largely male-dominated industry and team. So when I decided to go on and do, for example, my training course in 2019, so this was late 2018, where I was evaluating different training options, I still obviously, didn't want to leave work and do this training because it was very much for myself at that time. So I thought once I narrowed down the training school, I needed, a day off a week at work to attend the physical classes. So I thought to myself, oh my God, how am I going to broach this subject with my manager at that time and also my colleague at the time? And I was managing a pretty large team. Like I said, mostly largely male dominated. I thought I knew I was going to get laughed at, right? And funnily enough, they were actually, when I broached it and I started with, please don't laugh, about what I'm going to say. When I broached it, everybody was unbelievably supportive, right? Really, really supportive. From my boss at work, who actually at that time laughed it off and said, yes, you can have your Fridays off to go do your course. However, who knows, maybe you'll even, bring back some of it at work. And I did, right? Like I said, who knew COVID was going to happen? And, I was able to share some of it, so much of it back as a, sort of a pay it forward back into the work community where I was working. The second part was my colleague in Melbourne. And yeah, he had a chuckle and, every team meeting he'd go namaste and then, but just very lighthearted, but also stepped in to look after any sort of teamwork or escalations that came in on the day or the time I had off to do my course. And luckily my team, they were, all very mature, self-sufficient people. But if they needed my assistance, they knew, on those particular days, I'd tell them the day before, I'll be offline today. They knew that day to either just text me, I'll get back to them during the break, or to reach out to sort of my colleague in Melbourne, who was sort of the acting manager for them during the day. So I was surprised as to how supportive everybody became. And as part of giving back, my biggest converts were, those a lot of gentlemen who would never ever traditionally do yoga or meditation. They do more gymming or more running or more sort of swimming or more sort of, active type style of exercises. The number of people whose lives I've been able to convert and change by doing, the stretching exercises, the more mind-body, soul connection exercises, as well as meditation, has been incredible. In fact, some of them have been sort of my biggest, have a look at my LinkedIn, some of them have been sort of our biggest testimonials in terms of the impact it's had on their life and the changes it's had.
I love that. They're actually, like you say, it's so amazing. They are very supportive and they are welcoming change with the open heart as well, because they're willing to try it out. And it must be because you have that personalities that they can trust you. You're someone that they can be trusted, so that whatever that you bring into the environment or bring into the office is something that they think is going to be impactful for them. I love that. Thank you so much for that, Khyiati. And for you to start the business, because you did mention that at the beginning of this journey, it started with giving back to the community, and then only after COVID, a little bit, you see the power of your work and you decided to bring it as a business and you bring it out to more people out there. So how did that transition? What are some of the challenges? Because obviously, starting any businesses, there will be challenges. What are some of the challenges that you face along this way?
Thank you. So yes, Vivienne, it was quite a journey, because coming from, the technology world, the corporate world, you're very well resourced, right? And especially as you go into senior ranks, you need IT support, you know who to call. You need legal support, there's a legal department. You need, you need procurement done, and you need the best price for a particular supplier on X. You know who to actually reach out to. So whereas running a small business, you've got to learn to multitask. So the best way to do it, and certainly what I've learned from my journey, is be humble and actually go back to the drawing board. So I went back to the drawing board. I, approached a number of people, and also my circle of friends and also my community. Not that they didn't want to help, but they were largely within, the sort of that corporate space, the medical space or legal space themselves, but also either working in large businesses or running large businesses. So nobody really, as a small business owner, was sort of in my circle of influence or friends or community that could guide me. So I went back to the drawing board and I went and got myself, did some research, some learning, and went and got myself a couple of business coaches as well, right? To help me with different aspects of writing, coming up with my business plan, getting clear on my value proposition and the work I want to do, putting parameters around that. And then also this journey can also sometimes be very lonely because in the corporate world, you're always surrounded with people, colleagues that, over time also, become your friends and your comfort zone and your sounding board, right? So then the second step I had to do was, yes, one was learning humility. Second was business coaching and going back and, shutting up and listening and not having the answers and, having to go and find the answers. Then the third part was finding your tribe as well. So joining various networking groups, various forums to connect with new people, like-minded people. And, certainly through some of those networking forums is how we connected as well,
Yes.
Vivienne, and learning from people's stories, right? And then also defining your own success. So sometimes in corporate, it's easy because the career paths can be very linear, in terms of step up, the titles are very defined. Now you've got to create your own success and your own definition of success, right? So redefining that as a high-performing individual as well, and setting yourself those goals and continue to upskill and learn has been quite a journey. But it's been a really, really good learning journey. And let me tell you what I found. And I had a mentoring session last year with someone. And that person said to me, and it still resonates with me, hey, you come from the corporate world. One piece of advice I'll leave you with is it's very different to being in a corporate world, which can sometimes be competitive. Generally, small business communities and small business owners want to and tend to help each other, even if they're in the same industry or the same business. So never ever feel shy from asking out for help or asking for collaboration or asking to be part of a community, because the worst that could happen is they'll say no, but at least you tried. But generally, you'll see there's a different mindset within a small business community here in Australia. And certainly that turned out to be true. And I've been really humbled with sort of the support I've received. And just recently, a few weeks ago, I just did a big collaboration, right, with myself and a few other local business owners where we wanted to do a whole, photo shoot to actually capture some of the amazing offers that, my team and I have in Sattvic Wellbeing. So just local businesses that came on board to make it all happen. It's just been incredible. So yeah, and all I have to do is pick up the phone and ask. So yeah, it speaks volumes.
Yeah, that's such an important piece of advice that you just given there. You have to ask, especially as a small business owners, being able to ask for help, ask for advice as people. I find that so true because every time that we ask, we get an opportunity, we got a chance to get the help, because you never ask, you never know, and the answer is always no if you don't ask, right? Yeah, and within this community, and especially women in business, it's always good to remind ourselves it's collaboration is always better than competition.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that great piece of advice that you just gave us there, Khyiati. So throughout this, like you say, the journey of a small business owner or in any career journey, so there are times that we definitely, I think everyone, even the more successful people that we know, right, there can be times that they have self-doubt, so-called imposter syndrome. So what are your strategies, or how did you overcome this situation where you feel that there are self-doubt or this imposter syndrome?
Thank you. Good question. And you know what? I still go through that myself. And like you said, it probably never ends, even no matter how successful you are. So, and it's probably not very different to in, sort of even working in corporate and as you're progressing through your journey there. Because it comes back to authenticity. So always begin with your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? What's the impact you're having on both yourself, your family, your community, and your people, right? So use that as a basis for your anchor, because I think that'll ground you or bring you back into perspective, especially when you are having those self-doubts or those imposter syndrome type scenarios. The second thing is, like I said, just go with the flow. So stop overwhelming yourself. So yeah, I've shared my personal journey in the sense that when I started, I never thought that this would become my career. I didn't even see it as a passion. I just saw it as an opportunity for self-development and self-improvement, and bringing some balance and structure into my life that was holistic. So take the small steps onto the journey if you're not sure where you're going. And the third thing is surround yourself with the right people, because there's no shortage of naysayers in this world. I certainly experienced a lot of that as well. People going, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure you're right for it? It's okay as a hobby. It's okay as a passion. Are you sure you want to do it? So again, anchor yourself back to why you want to do what you're doing, right? And allow yourself to be imperfect. So experiment, make mistakes, learn from those mistakes, because until you push yourself out of your comfort zone and experience something new, you're not going to get that growth, whether that's personally or professionally or in any aspect of your life. So we forget to challenge ourselves because we just get so caught up in the day-to-day. So you've got to create the time and make the time for change.
So true. Yeah, I love those few tips over there. It's like so important for you to always remember why did you start at the first place. And then when there are times that you feel like to give up, why did you start it? And it's so important for you to surround yourself with the like-minded people, because they are there to lift you up, and then it's there to support you. Wow, I love that. Thank you so much, Khyiati, for sharing those few very, very important tips for everyone out there who, like I say, they are the most successful people. They have self-doubt as well, but always remind yourself, why did you start at the first place, and go back to become grounding from that as well. Yeah, I love what you're doing for sure, Khyiati, and thank you so much for bringing your work to the people, not only within your community and to the world as well. So can you now tell us what are some of the program or some of the service offered by Sattvic Wellbeing?
Yeah, sure. So we offer wellbeing and retreat-based services for busy professionals. So for our corporate customers, we offer meditation services, yoga and wellbeing services, whether that's for special events or they want to do a term-based commitment, we can do that as a part of broader wellbeing initiatives in the workplace. In addition to that, we also offer retreat-based experiences, both day retreats and weekend retreats, as well as we're looking to launch overseas retreats as well, for really anyone that's feeling like they just want to relax, recharge, and rejuvenate their batteries. So, we've got a full schedule of calendar coming out for 2025, which we're working on, which I'm super excited about. And so there's lots of opportunity to actually join us across various locations in Australia. So next year we're doing New South Wales, Victoria, and also Byron Bay as well. And we're looking to take our group exclusively to India, to Goa and Kerala as well. So it's really coming together, having together time, making new connections, as well as, most importantly, making a deeper connection with your inner self. So that's what our retreats are really focused on. And we always want people to walk away really relaxed and really recharged, with a sense of clarity and a sense of balance that they can bring into their daily lives. I'm, like I said, over 20 years veteran, and having lived a busy life, juggling those multiple hats, the multiple competing priorities. So what's important to me is guests that come to my retreat leave with some practical tips and tricks to incorporate a sense of calm and well-being into their daily lives, right? Well-being can't just be left to 3 days in a year or a week in a year when you take a break for yourself. You've got to be able to create those moments for yourself in every day. And, I'll leave people with those tips and tricks to do that. So yeah, come join our retreat programs and our wellbeing programs and our meditation programs, and we'll be able to help you through that.
Yeah, I did have my first retreat experience with Khyiati, and I really enjoyed the time that we spent together. And there's so many first experience that I had with Khyiati, especially the sound bath. I still remember we had so many magical moments, and I keep telling Khyiati I was like in the others like orbits. I was in the orbits of the galaxy. I don't even know. Just literally, you get yourself out of your busy lifestyle is so needed to, like what Khyiati was mentioned, to recharge yourself, because there's so many hats that we're juggling, especially if you are a mom, you work. You need this me time for yourself to really have this journey inwards. I really love what Khyiati is doing. And then for those of you who wanted to reach out to Khyiati, how can they find you online and find out more about your work, Khyiati?
Perfect. So I will share my website and my social handles, including LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook, as well as our email as well. So Vivienne, if you can include that as part of your podcast, that would be great in the comments. And I just want to let our audience onto a little secret. I believe, Vivienne, your first sound bath experience, you described it as an intergalactic experience. And we'd finished the experience, turned the lights on, and I think we had to wake you up because you were just in such a beautiful, peaceful trance state that, I'm so grateful that, we were able to create that magical experience for you with that. So that's the level of relaxation. So you were obviously in deep relaxation. That's the level of experience we want to give to our guests that come to our retreats.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't experienced that, I highly recommend you to go with Khyiati's retreat. Like what Khyiati was mentioned, it's such a deep relaxation which we probably didn't get the chance in our daily life, and that's so needed. And you will definitely feel rejuvenate, recharged after that session, that retreat session with Khyiati. And definitely reach out to Khyiati to find out more about her work and join one of her sessions to experience that yourself. So thank you so much for your time with us, Khyiati. You have definitely shared a lot of your stories, your journey with us, and I really appreciate you for bringing your works to the world in a much needed time of our life as well, because of the busyness that everyone is experiencing. So what is your one piece of advice for other women out there?
Well, what is the one piece of advice? One piece is to trust your process and to believe in yourself, right? So sometimes change comes to us and we're often, left questioning, and life's a roller coaster of ups and downs. And change comes to us. Sometimes we feel good, sometimes not so good, but always try and look into the positive of the change that's happening and go with the flow instead of resisting it. And, just believe in yourself. And once you believe in yourself, you'll get to your end destiny. And sometimes to go from A to B, we have to go A to C and C to B. So just be open to that, be clear on where you want to go, but leave the how to the universe.
I love that one piece of advice that contains many pieces of golden nuggets within that. I think it's such a great information or advice that you just provide us. And I love that Khyiati has mentioned a few times during our conversation, go with the flow. I really love that, go with the flow, because a lot of the time we were so resistant to changes. We're so conditioned with what we were told we should be growing up in certain ways, work towards your corporate until you retire. But you have to trust your gut's feelings and know what's right for you. And trust yourself, believe in yourself. I really think that's Khyiati, so spot on what you're sharing there, Khyiati. And thank you so much for your time and wisdom with us. And I think that it is such a valuable session that we have with Khyiati. But before we wrap up our conversation today, Khyiati, is there anything that you would like me to ask that I haven't asked yet?
Oh, Vivienne, you're lovely. I think we've covered everything really well. And really, I just want to, deep down thank you for your support and thank you for the opportunity of being part of this podcast and sharing my story and my journey with, the amazing women and the audience you want to reach out to and inspire. And, I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you so much, Khyiati. Once again, I really, really appreciate your time and wisdom with us. For those of you listening, make sure you reach out to Khyiati and experience that galaxy magical moment with her. Thank you so much, Khyiati.
Thank you. Thank you, Vivienne.
Yeah, we're looking forward to follow your journeys, and then I'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.